Okay, so we're finally in fiction. This is my first stack. It is placed here. First, I Have a Little Faith by Mitch Albom. I've read Five People You Meet in Heaven. I think at some point I also owned a copy. I don't know where it went, but I haven't read this one. I have The Missing World by Margot Livesey. I'm currently reading this one, but I've put it off because I decided to read another book. But this is No Limitang by Jose Rizal. This is the Anvil edition. I love this book. This is one of my favorite books. And this is actually the first book that ever made me cry. It's a ghost story, but it's a modern ghost story, so it's not scary exactly. This is called Be With You by a Japanese author, Takuji Ichikawa. I think it's a manga originally. Then I have Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. Love this one. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I also have a lot of opinion about this book, mostly not good. The Giver by Lois Lowry. I had a different edition once, but I lost that one, so I repurchased a secondhand copy. The Godfather by Mario Puzo. Again, I've talked about this book in this channel. The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. This is my only Neil Gaiman book. I want to read more from him. The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. This is actually my friend's copy. He gave it to me. I think I borrowed it first, and then he eventually just told me I can have it. This is also one of my favorite books of all time. This is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Saenz. Don't know how to pronounce the name as well. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is a very well-loved book, but again, I have my own opinion. If you love this book, you don't want to hear about my thoughts, but this book is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay, another stack. I have Furthermore by Tahara Mafi. I have this anthology, The Dragon Book, by several authors. This is published by Ace. I love dragons. I love fantasy. Growing up, I was obsessed with dragons. Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. We're finally in my Cassandra Clare collection. Now, I want to talk about Cassandra Clare first and the Shadowhunter books. I used to be a huge fan of the series, of the entire saga, everything Cassandra Clare. But after I read City of Heavenly Fire, that's when I stopped. It was also the time that I had this really long reading slump, and it was the transition period between reading YA and reading general fiction. But I brought along my Cassandra Clare collection with me because they mean so much to me. An extra book first. This is The Iron Trial by Cassandra Clare and Holly Black from the Magisterium series. Let me talk about the Mortal Instruments first. Okay, so I have a boxed set. City of Bones, City of Ashes, and City of Glass, the first three from the Mortal Instrument series. Then I have the fourth book, City of Heavenly Fire, City of Lost Souls, which is the fifth book, and the last book, City of Heavenly Fire. And because I love her books so much, I also have the 10th anniversary edition of City of Bones. This is beautiful. Like, look at that. So then I have the Infernal Devices trilogy, Clockwork Angel, first book, Clockwork Prince, second book, and the finale, Clockwork Princess. This is my favorite Cassandra Clare book. This book also made me cry. Mixed emotions. I really love this trilogy so much. Better than the Mortal Instruments. I have the first book from the Dark Artifices. I tried reading it and I couldn't finish it, but it's called Lady Midnight. And then the rest are collectibles. Companion books. Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. Bane Chronicles. I have the Shadowhunter Guide. This came out during the movie promotion. Illustrated history of notable Shadowhunters and denizens of the Downworld. This just has all of the characters and a little bit background about them. And lastly, we have the Shadowhunters Codex. If I were to say one book from the Shadowhunters saga, I would save this book. I just think this one is special. Next, I have my to be read books. This is the current book that I'm reading. It's called The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. Then I have Chinese Cinderella by Adeline Yen Ma. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I have A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. And then I have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I have my few collection of poetry books, but this is modern poetry. I had a brief moment where I was obsessed with modern poetry. First, I have Sea of Strangers by Lang Leave. I also had one of her other books, but I don't know where it went. Dirty Pretty Things by Michael Faudet. Her volume 2, and Him, all by Pierre Janty. I loved these books at the time. I don't know if I love it just the same. Midnight Monologues by Teresa Ong T.Y. It's also a collection of short stories. Mind Platter by Najwa Zebian. This cover is so beautiful. I love the colors. I love that it gives off that like watercolor. I think I've been moving a lot forward. This anthology of Philippine draconic fiction, A Time for Dragons. Told you I like dragons. Last 2 of the Harry Potter books. Dragonspell by Donita K. Paul. Dragon Keeper by Carol Wilkinson. Then I have the rest of Harry Potter books. Okay, new stack. Restore Me by Tahara Mafi. I loved her Shatter Me trilogy, the first 3. And I read those way back, but then I didn't know that she continued the series, so I bought the 4th book. I lost my copy of the first 3, so now I'm left with just Restore Me. I tried reading this one, but I realized I wasn't into YA anymore, so I stopped. The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. This book also made me cry. I also used to have the last 2 books because this is a trilogy. Actually, I lost all of those books, including this one. This is a repurchase because this book is special to me, having made me cry. The bus part where she had to say goodbye to someone, I cried. Divergent by Veronica Roth. This is the first book from the trilogy. I love this first book. I also used to have all of the books, but I repurchased this one when I lost all of the books as well. The Wicked Deep, Shia Earnshaw, Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. Next, I have the Trill Trilogy by Amanda Hawking. When I was a teenager, I was obsessed with this trilogy. First book is Switched, Torn, and then the last book is Ascend. Is that the television? Is that the neighbor's television? Why is that loud? Or is someone fighting over there? Why is it loud? Now I can't film. I am so sorry about that, but we're going to continue anyway. The last 2 books from the Inheritance trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I love this trilogy. The first book is called 100,000 Kingdoms. The second book is The Broken Kingdoms. And then the last book is The Kingdom of Gods. Love these covers as well. They're so pretty. One of my favorite fantasy books, Graceling by Christine Cashore. Another book by her, Jane Unlimited. The Duology Eon and Iona by Alison Goodman. I love this series as well. This duology. Aragon and Eldest by Christopher Paolini. More dragon books. Love this series. Even though I've only read the first 2 books. 2 Murakami books. I have Kafka on the Shore and Norwegian Wood. Love this. This not so much. I have an entire collection of Paulo Coelho books, but they're not with me right now. I only have 4 books here with me. My favorite book, Veronica Decides to Die. Then we have Brida, The Alchemist, which I actually did not like. Very controversial opinion, I know. Then The Zahir. And then we're finally in my classics section. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. They have The Gift of Akbar by Ogmandino. I also read his 12th Angel book, but I lost my copy. Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. I bought these 2 books because they were found in Michael Jackson's library. I was desperate to know what kind of books he reads, so I bought them. I bought these secondhand. Most of my classic books I bought secondhand. Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Then I have The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, also by him. This is The Diamond as Big as the Ritz and Other Stories, a compilation of short stories. Then I have my Fyodor Dostoevsky books. I love him. Of course, Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, and Notes from Underground. Love this book. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. The entire Sherlock Holmes collection by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Love, love, love Sherlock Holmes. The first book I read is Sherlock Holmes, and I love his brain. I wish I can have his brain, even though he's like completely fictional. Then I have my Hess books. Wait, I'm missing Siddhartha, which is my favorite Hess book, but I've talked about that in this channel, so if you're interested to know my thoughts, you can watch that. But I have Damien and Beneath the Wheel here. I started reading Hess because of BTS, so thank you, BTS. More Sherlock Holmes. This is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes from Word Cloud Classics. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is also one of my favorite classics. The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. Oscar Wilde. Stories. It's a compilation of stories by him, including The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is one of my favorite classics. A poetry book. This is by Emily Dickinson. It's a compilation by Scholastic. Then I have my small collection of Penguin Little Black classics. Aphorisms on Love and Hate by Friedrich Nietzsche. He is my favorite philosopher. I have Letters to a Young Poet by Rilke. Only Dull People Are Brilliant at Breakfast by Oscar Wilde. And How to Use Your Enemies by Baltasar Gracian. Of course, I have The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. This is my favorite book of all time. And the reason why I read this is because of Michael Jackson. It's his favorite book, allegedly. Okay, so now we're down to the last stack. This is my Collins Classics, the only classics edition that I buy brand new because they're really cheap. 1984 by George Orwell. Letters from a Stoic by Lucius Seneca. I read this because I read the philosophy book that I've mentioned earlier. Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Dracula by Bram Stoker. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Love this book. Also one of my favorite books of all time, but the book that I read first is not this edition. It's a more beautiful copy, but I lost that one as well, so I bought a new one. Then I have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, and the last is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. So that is the entire collection. I'm sure I'm gonna be buying more books in the future, and when I finally have them together in beautiful bookshelves, I'll definitely do a bookshelf tour. That's it for now. Bye.